Great, thanks so much. Thanks for the introduction, Caroline. And I'm absolutely delighted to be here with Cristian Zuzunaga, who is, well, I've known you for a good few years, I think, Cristian, who is primarily known for his textile designs. I'll just give you a short biog in case you haven't encountered Mr. Zuzunaga before. So born in Barcelona and a graduate of London's Royal College of Art, Cristian is a true interdisciplinarian, known primarily for his textile designs, but he's also a tireless experimenter in print and more recently in mosaic. His innovative work can be located somewhere between art, fashion, design, and architecture, where his visual narrative centers on geometric shapes. Does that sound like you?
Yeah, very good.
Okay, good.
I didn't realize until you read it. Yeah.
Interesting, we have this image behind us here. You've been called many times a name which sort of stuck for a while, which was the pixel guy. Do you feel that's a fair assessment? Is it a stereotype? Do you feel like that's somehow constrained you?
Well, it's a two-way feeling. In a way, I feel okay because it's an archetype. For me, it's not the pixel, it's the square and the color, and technology catching up with that archetype. So for me, it's nothing negative, but I don't like to be at the center. So it kind of made me work on my personality, being an introvert, having to, without pretending to be an extrovert. So once you have a name, or they call you, or they frame you, it's a box that is a sticky. I'm not sure about it.
Yeah, and if it does stick, I think it's kind of quite hard because the identity that's kind of constructed around you can limit you. Exactly.
Yeah. But in a way, it's true to my journey. It all starts with the square anyway. So I think it's in a very short sentence or name, it kind of encapsulates. And then if there is the opportunity to discuss that further, then it's an open door for me. So it's not negative.
In the short talk, I want to focus on process, on your particular process, because I think most of you won't know this, because we are quite naturally familiar more with output, with product, as opposed to process. But you start in 2D. So if we think about your kind of textile design as three-dimensional, you actually start in 2D, in print. Everything starts with print, and in particular letterpress, which is quite a kind of a very, very physical kind of job. And it's also at the same time informed by architecture. So can you kind of reveal to us in brief what this process is and how it works?
I mean, in a way, I'm not a product designer. I don't see myself as a designer, especially. I'm a typographer. I studied biology as well, and for me, it's how to bridge disciplines. And letterpress printing allowed me for that because it's a medium that you work on 2D, but all the elements in it are 3D, and it's this very modular, rational environment that it forces you to think in one way, in a particular way. And for me, it's patterns, modular patterns that come from geometric shapes. So I think it's a medium that allows the introspective energy to take over, and then you can imagine and visualize different outcomes, among them products. But I'm not a very prolific product designer, let's say, but that's a choice. I'm not really knocking every door, every company to try to do more, but I'm trying to go deeper into geometry and the archetypes that go on with it and try to have an understanding of our condition of human beings. But it's an abstraction, so I love to work with abstraction, with repetition, with time, and these letterpress machines allow you to do that. No? You travel in time, you're using an old medium, but you need to upgrade it till today. So for me, it's a starting point, and then obviously I scan it. I scan a lot of the work I do, and then I digitalize the analog images. And from then is when the imagination triggers, and it's about the cropping, about which areas do you want to enlarge. So it's all about micro and macro. It's about errors being highlighted. Most of my work that you see here are errors that I translated into then textiles or different techniques. But it comes from the frustration that an error can carry, which allows you to be present. So my work is about being present.
I think in product design, there is we have this iterative process where we go through kind of several prototypes, and the idea is that we are supposed to design out error. And I think that's particularly fascinating in your work, is that you kind of spot the errors, the glitches, and you celebrate them. You kind of then elaborate them. Do you always think in 2D first, or I mean, because when I look at, for example, the image behind us now, I think that it's incredibly architectural.
I think in layers. I don't think in 3D, 2D, but I think in overlapping. And when there's an overlapping, it's one thing when you do it on a computer and it's digital, and the overlap, it's just a texture and color. But when you do it with paper and print, it's an indentation, it's an embossing. So there is a different kind of reality coming, because the light hits in a different way. So suddenly you have colors popping up in a way that don't happen when you are in a computer screen. So I don't really necessarily work with the 3D image in mind. I construct, and I don't throw the errors because they're in the print studio, and I keep keeping them. I'm not a herder, but almost. And then, you keep constructing. It's almost like a collage, but then, at one point when you feel it's ready, you just need to stop it. So it's a process. And then sometimes I start with a kind of 2D, like I imagine floors, let's say, flooring, and from there on I go into the 3D. So it's not. It's from the ground up for me, the experience. Yeah.
Right. You say you don't kind of like a maniac. You don't go looking for product collaborations with manufacturers. But at the same token, this is obviously part of your work, your business as a brand. I mean, which areas would you like to work in? Do you have a dream project in mind, or a particular kind of medium that you'd like to explore?
I mean, when I finished the Royal College, I chose, it chose me in a way, to work with the digital textiles, printed textiles. But for me, the image came from the skyline of Shanghai. And for me, it's all about architecture. It's the urban environment that we navigate through. So for me, I would love to collaborate with architects, but when I graduated from the Royal College, that was what I realized, like, shit, I should have done an architecture MA. And I felt it was a bit too late, but I thought, you know what, if I'm working within the environment, and that's why I chose then textiles and interior design, products or projects, to be within that area. But my dream project will be to work with architect firms, not from the beginning, the conception, but maybe how to apply a lot of the work I do in the facade, on the flooring. I'm working on mosaic now as well. I'm studying mosaic, and try to really, not reinvent the wheel, but try to reappropriate the materials used in a coherent way. And that will bring us to more circular economy projects. So I would be interested in crossing over between art, design, and science with an architectural experience, let's say.
Mosaic, you mentioned mosaic. I know that you've been studying mosaic design, doing a master's in London. And this, this relates very closely to sustainability, right? Can you say something about that? This ancient kind of design technique is very relevant today, I think.
Yeah. Well, what I'm realizing, and I'm glad to be talking about it when I'm in Milan, because it's also the Roman Empire, it's still latent. And I think it was through mosaic that they were managed to construct it in a visual, pictorial, energy kind of message way, to unify. And I think for me what is important is to be conscious of the process and what's left and what can you do with the leftovers. And I started with textiles already, we don't throw anything. Like when we cut the cushions or the fabrics for the sofas or any cutouts, we keep, and then we are either making paper through it, like pulp, like we mash it if it's an organic fiber, or we do covers and booklets with a cooperative that we work with in Terrassa in Spain. And I think for me, it's nothing bad about having a leftover, it's just to know what to do with it. And I think now, with textiles that I'm working with, or plastics and derivatives, we have an opportunity through design to reappropriate these materials and do something new. So I'm working with the mosaic, for example, but in a traditional way at the moment. But I'm already investigating how could we use textiles or sub-products of textiles or plastics in order to re-energize our streets or our urban experience, using an old technique but with modern materials. And that is something, well, not modern, but I think processes that are relevant for today, I would say.
Where the process has changed slightly, or the application is new. I can't let you go without asking you one question about the polluting nature of textiles. They are officially, empirically, the second most polluting, the textiles industry is the second most polluting industry globally. How does that figure with you? How does that sit with you?
Something I didn't know when I got into textiles, but I was aware of the chemicals and all the sub products, let's say, of printing. No, like one thing is the enjoyment of printing, and the other thing is like, okay, the paper where it comes from, and then the chemicals with the inks and which colors are you using. And through textiles, the same happened to me. It was a discovery. For me, first comes passion, and then the discovery. And when I have the discovery and the realization that this is a reality, then is when I try to be coherent. So I stopped designing in a way. And that was part of my decision for a while, to try to do research and try to look deeper into what can I do to have a less impact. So most of us, we don't even know where our products are made or come from. You have a label, but you don't know the process. You don't know there is a person behind stitching, and so there is a lack of information and a lack of transparency at the same time. So for me, I'm now looking at collaboration. I cannot mention with who, but I'm working already on that. I'm going to be using derivatives of plastic to develop flooring and carpets and all that in a way that it can be outdoor or indoor, but the material has that compromise. It's not new plastics being used, which, funny enough, a lot of the plastics that we call recycled, they are not. They're new plastic coming on the chain. So I'm looking at that in that humble way, and also with the mosaic, I'm going to be looking at which other ways we can be reusing something that otherwise it will be discarded. No, but we need to be coherent. That's for me the biggest challenge.
We need to be coherent and we need to be transparent.
Yes, in order to have a more sustainable, and that's one of the reasons why I'm living out of London now, and I'm moving out because of the levels of pollution, and not just the fumes, it's the toxicity of the materials of the buildings that they are building new. They're all like derivatives of oil, they're all man-made plastics, like they look okay from the distance, but they're not real materials that, that I think we got it all wrong in some aspects. So it starts from the individual. So that's why I'm moving out, because I'm not going to change London, but I can change myself within a different environment, no? A bit more according to nature. So, yeah.
Good stuff. Right. We have a few minutes here for questions, if anyone would like to pose one. You can make it professional or personal. We don't mind. We're an open book. Go for it.
Talking about renewable energies, in how far can you contribute to change the way photovoltaics is being integrated in buildings, and can your role play a part in that? Because it looks a bit like mosaics in many ways. Yeah. Is it something that you have been looking at? Have you been looking at making that also part of your work?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly.
So photovoltaics, so panels. Solar panels.
That would be, for me, no, I haven't looked at it, but for me that would be a starting point to collaborate with architectures, I think. The facades, and then also how to bring life to buildings, because I'm looking at the staticness of every building, but per se they're static, but I think that it could benefit from having different materials, like more, yeah.
Because it's a big trend we see that buildings are now entirely covered with panels.
Yep.
And therefore you also need to decorate them in different ways.
Exactly. I think, look, when I started 15 years ago, that was my naive intention. That's what I wanted. But then I ended up starting from the inside, the floors, and collaborating with companies. But my real input, I think, would be that. I would love to collaborate on that. Yeah. That and swimming pools as well, with all the water, and then trying to marry different.
Yeah, the renaissance of the mosaic swimming pool. Who knows?
No?
We were just at the Villa Necchi earlier, and beautiful pool there.
Yeah.
Super. Thanks, Felix. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Great. Listen, Cristian,
Thank you.
Thanks a million. You'll always be a Londoner to me, even though you're not anymore. And thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.